As we mentioned before, the electrons orbit the nucleus at specific distances. So over here we can label on our nucleus, that's this bit in the middle over here, and we've seen that we've drawn several rings around it. So far we've only seen the electron orbiting in one single ring, but actually the electrons, they orbit in specific distances and they orbit in specific energy levels or shells. Okay, so each of these concentric circles represents a shell. So in the innermost shell there's what we call the lowest energy level, and you can use it interchangeably, and on the innermost shell you can fill it up with 2 electrons, and on the rest of the shells essentially you fill these up with 8 electrons each. And so if you were to draw a diagram of an atom, essentially that's what you'd have to do, is you'd have to fill it up from the innermost shell first, so the lowest energy level, all the way out to the higher energy levels. But what you need to remember is that the innermost shell gets full after 2 electrons and the rest of them get full after 8 electrons. Okay, so on the outside we could also put 8 electrons like this, where each of our crosses represent an electron. And so the specific electron structure of your atom will depend obviously on the number of electrons in your atom. And we can represent these by either drawing diagrams like this, or we can represent them in numbers like this. So if you want to represent this as a number, then we'd say that the electronic structure of this particular atom is 2, because the innermost shell has 2. The next shell up has 8, and the next shell up has 8 as well. And there's no 4th shell, so that's where we'd end it. So that would be the electronic structure. And we can do another example. So let's say we want to draw out the electronic structure of this particular atom of sodium 281. So we're told the electronic structure in numbers, so we should be able to draw that as a diagram now. So let's put our nucleus in there, 281. So we need 3 shells. So there's the first shell, there's the second shell, and there's the third shell. And essentially then we need to put crosses on to mark our electrons. So in the first shell we know we've got 2 electrons. In the second shell, we know we've got 8 electrons, so we can do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And in the third shell, we know we just have 1 electron. So this is your atom of sodium that we've drawn the electronic structure from our number arrangement there. Okay, so you should be able to go between either of those, from the diagram to the numbers or from the numbers to the diagram. What you notice is that if you add these up, you get 2 plus 8 plus 1, so you should get a number of 11. And this is the number of electrons you would expect in an atom of sodium which has no electrical charge. Okay, so let's do a few questions to test out your understanding. Okay, feel free to pause the video, have a go at these questions. So the first one, we are asked to write the electronic structure of the below. And so should just be a simple case of counting up the number of electrons in each shell. So in the first shell, we've got 2, as we'd expect. In the second shell, we have 8 electrons, so we're going to write 8. In the third shell, this is this shell over here, we have another 8 electrons. And in the last shell, we have 1, 2, 3, 4 electrons. So our structure can be written out in numbers like that. Okay, second question, draw the electronic structure of atom with structure 2, 4. And so again, we'll draw our nucleus, and we know we need 2 shells. So let's draw the 2 shells out like that, 1, 2, and finally in the innermost shell we have 2, and on the outermost shell we have 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, and that is the structure of that one. So hopefully that makes sense, and I'll see you guys in the next one.